The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. On a Sabbath, Jesus went out to dine at the home of one of the leading Pharisees, and the people there were observing him carefully. He told a parable to those who had been invited, noticing how they were choosing the places of honor at the table. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not recline at table in the place of honor. A more distinguished guest than you may have been invited by him, and the host who invited both of you may approach you and say, "Give your place to this man," and then you would proceed with embarrassment to take the lowest place. Rather, when you are invited, go and take the lowest place, so that when the host comes to you, he may say, "My friend, move up to a higher position." Then you will enjoy the esteem of your companions at the table. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Then he said to the host who invited him, "When you hold a lunch or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your wealthy neighbors, in case they may invite you back and you have repayment. Rather, when you hold a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Blessed indeed will you be because of their inability to repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." The Gospel of the Lord.
We human beings are rational animals. We have an intellect. We want to understand the world. We want to know the world and how it works, all of that. Which is why so often we have the question, why? The scientist asks why as they look at something and they try to understand how it came about and how it works, or how the universe or the stars or the atoms or whatever. There's also, it's built into us. So the little kids start pretty soon asking why? Why? Because we want to know. And the same is true when something bad happens, some suffering comes upon us or someone that we love. We ask, why? Why does this have to happen? Why? It doesn't make any sense. And all of that is natural, and all of that is good, because we recognize it really comes from God. God is where all of us come from. If we're asking why, it's because we know that the Creator has reasons for what he does. He does not make a chaotic world. He makes a reasonable or understandable world. At least for himself. We can't always understand it. And that's where humility needs to come in. Because we need to recognize that even though we're, in a sense, made to know things and understand things, there's some things that we, as limited human beings, cannot. This is why, in our first reading, these different elements of wisdom that are being passed on to us, there's two that are kind of curious. What is too sublime for you, do not seek. Do not reach into things that are hidden from you. This is not saying don't be curious about anything. It's not saying stop asking. It's not the frustrated or exasperated parent answering the kid asking why. It just is. Stop asking. It's not that. Really, it's a call to humility, recognizing that we cannot understand everything. There are some deep mysteries in the world that require us, in a sense, to be present to, and just to be patient with, or just to be with, and allow them to speak to us, to be humble in the face of these mysteries. I was thinking of this with the horrible shooting that happened in Minnesota earlier this week, and 1,000 times before. What are we called to do? How do we deal with these big issues that cry out to us, Because there is that response in the midst of tragedy. Why? This doesn't make any sense. And I'm getting a lot of my thoughts from an article I came across that was very good. If any of you are subscribers to The Pillar, pillarcatholic.com, this is one that came out this week, definitely worth reading. And it was a reflection on the shooting. Because as human beings in the modern world, we're tempted to ask why and then sort of jump on any solution that seems to satisfy us. Not that it's true necessarily, but we're looking for or we fall into, or the temptation is to fall into those easy answers. And every easy answer, just like every lie, has an element of truth. I don't want to reject that. I don't want to ignore that there is some truth to it. But just like a lie, there's some truth and there's the falsehood. And if we swallow the lie, then we go down a bad path. I think there's two elements of this. One, when we are asking or we try to jump on an easy solution to problems of violence in our society, that kind of thing, it's very easy for us to kind of jump on the easy solution of, oh, it's that group of people. They're the problem. If we could just get rid of them, then that would solve it. Or we need to change our laws, so if we have this new law that does this, then that will be the solution. And we see that. There's some that will say, well, we need more gun control. And then there's others that say, in this particular case, well, we need to get rid of the gender confusion and gender ideology that may have caused this. If it's that fault, or that group of people's fault. But both of those are, in a sense, too simple. There may be reasons for both of them. I mean, there are reasons for both of them, and 100 other things. But the trap is that we say, oh, this, great, done. We just have to do this, and if people don't go along with my idea, then now the problem's on them, it's no longer on me. We see this in sort of exaggerated ways that may be simpler to see, because along with this, we could also, in trying to understand it or explain it, we could say, well, the person responsible is basically just a monster. He's an evil monster, there we go. But again, there's an element of truth. We recognize there's evil there. A monster is one who's sort of natural but been distorted. Okay, that's kind of true. But we're forgetting the bigger truth. That this act, like all of the others, was done by a human being not terribly different from any one of us. That's the uncomfortable truth. That it was a human being. Distorted, warped, their will and how they love and how they think about the world deeply warped and twisted. It's a broken human being, but we are broken human beings. Perhaps not in the same way or to the same degree, but each one of us is broken. If we're humble, if we're connected with reality, we have to look into our hearts and realize that at least a little bit of that hatred or sin or temptation that this person fell to is in my heart and in your heart. We need help, which is why the easy solution of, well, we need a new law or a new policy or get rid of these monsters or whatever is never ultimately going to fix everything, because the problem is within us. And the trap of us could be falling into is thinking, well, we human beings, we just need to try harder and then we can fix the problem. Well, no. Sure, we need to try harder, but we are the problem. We need something else outside of ourselves, like God, to come and fix what we have already broken. There is, in this article, there was a provocative thought or a sentence that is kind of disturbing, but I think it's worth us pondering. The author asks, if Christ were crucified today, would you be at the foot of the cross, Or would you be doom scrolling social media arguments about whether it's the fault of the Romans or the Jews? Would we be there, present in the darkness, in the difficulty, in the suffering? Or would we be spending all of our time trying to point fingers and argue about who we need to point our fingers at? Well, that's an uncomfortable question, isn't it? Because I think a lot of times, even for myself, there's these bad things. Oh, well, who's at fault? And who has the most ridiculous argument? And I need to make fun of them, and on and on and on. I was also thinking about something one of the rectors, the director of the seminary, Monsignor Michael Glenn, who has since passed away, but he had some great wisdom in leading the seminary. And he was there on 9/11. And of course, like many places, it was shocking. People turned on the TV and were watching the news. And he came back a couple hours later, and the same people were still there in front of the TV, still watching the news. He had the wisdom to realize, no, what they need right now is not more news. So we went, turned off the TV, and he said, okay, no more TV for the rest of the day. If you're bothered by this, go upstairs to the chapel and pray. That is the solution. You don't need to know any more details about how bad it is. It's bad. So that's the first problem that could come when we go for the easy solution, that looking to answer the why of the difficulty of the problem, the suffering. The second area is that there's a certain sense where this question can't be answered in the way that we want, fundamentally. Because the nature of what evil is different from anything else that we have in the world. There's a certain way where theologians say that evil of itself does not exist. It's not saying that evil things don't happen. Absolutely. Evil events and people can do evil things. Absolutely. But evil in itself, in a way, has no existence. It's only like a parasite on something else that does exist. It cannot exist by itself. It really takes something that's good and distorts it or twists it. We could see that. A human being is good. God created him good. We also know that all of us are created in, our existence is good, but we do bad things because we take the good and allow it to be twisted and use it in a way it's not meant to be used. So there's a certain way where this evil, whatever happened, we're not going to be able to answer it strictly in the same way we can other things because it's not a logical thing. There's a certain illogic or nonsense about it. I hope this makes sense. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but one way that I think about it that may help is recognizing that evil cannot create anything. Evil can only destroy or damage or hurt. The example that came to mind at the previous Mass is kind of silly, but you may be able to sympathize. Your kids can definitely sympathize. You work all this time building a sandcastle, and then some irritating kid comes over and stomps and destroys on the sandcastle. They seem to be the strong ones. And in a way they are. They may be more physically stronger than you, which is why they could come and be the bully and crush your sandcastle. But it doesn't mean that they're better, or in a sense even that they're more powerful. Because if you think about it, it's really easy to destroy that sandcastle or a human life. It's really pretty easy. It takes a lot more work and a lot more effort and a lot more grace and cooperating with God in order to create something. It takes quite a long time to build a nice sandcastle. It takes a second or two to destroy it. If you think about it, you parents have the job of raising your children, and it takes something like 18 years or more. But we also know the tragedy that a human life can be taken very quickly. And the people that do so fall into the trap of thinking that they're the powerful ones. there's a certain way where that's false. That's really false. Yeah, they could take a life because it's not hard to do. So what kind of power is that? There's a different sort of power that comes, though, of creating. I think the proper response to all of this is to, one, the humility to be present to a mystery, even a dark mystery that makes us uncomfortable. The kind of mystery where we realize we cannot understand it completely. Our minds cannot encompass it completely. Rather, the response is to understand what we can and to be present, and in a sense almost allow the mystery to unfold and inform us. Think of a human being. A human being is a mystery. We're not, science can tell us a lot by taking it apart in a way, examining it. But really, to understand the fullness of a human being, you need to be present to the human being. You need to be humble and allow that human being, that human person, to reveal themselves. I think of this because we're all called to be present to the mystery of evil. But rather than just doom scrolling through social media arguments, we're called to be present in the difficulty at the foot of the cross, which is the deeper mystery that God provides to us in answer to the mystery of evil. We're called to be at the foot of the cross, in the dirt at the foot of the cross, humble before the mystery of the cross. That's the answer that God provides to the evil that happened this week and all of the other things throughout all of history, is the mystery of God, who is truly powerful in a way that all of the shooters, all of we weak human beings hurting each other can't be. That's the mystery, the answer to the deep and difficult mystery of suffering.